Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're jumping right into something causing a huge stir in the gaming world, the upcoming 2.0 update for World of Tanks.
Yeah, this is a big one. World of Tanks, I mean, it's been a giant for over a decade, millions of players.
And now Wargaming, the developers, they're calling this their biggest, most ambitious update ever. They're actually saying it's a new era for the game.
They really are. And it's rolling out very soon, September 1st in Asia, then the 3rd for EU and North America.
So what are we actually looking at here?
It's a lot. We're talking new Tier XU tanks, a totally redesigned interface, a huge vehicle, rebalance hundreds of them, and even a completely new matchmaker.
Wow, okay. So definitely more than just a visual touch-up.
Oh, absolutely. Much more.
All right, so our mission today is to slice through that marketing hype. We need to look at Wargaming's big promises,
And then weigh them against what the players are saying. Because the community reaction is, intense, very passionate, and really divided on this.
Exactly. We want to figure out, is this 2.0 genuinely a fresh start for World of Tanks?
Yeah.
Or is it kind of just, more the same, but with a shiny new label?
We need to unpack the good, the bad, and the stuff that's really causing arguments.
Let's start with Wargaming's side of things. Their official vision, they've been really bold, haven't they?
Extremely bold. Michael Brook, their publishing director West, he said, and I'm quoting here, 2.0 isn't just an update, it's a cornerstone of the game's future evolution that will define World of Tanks development for years to come.
A cornerstone. That's quite a statement. It suggests everything builds on this.
It really does, and their whole marketing push calls it the biggest and most important update in the game's history, the start of a new era. They're not being subtle.
So what are the key features they're highlighting to back that up?
Okay, so headline features, 16 new Tier X tanks, apparently with unique gameplay mechanics.
Tier X, okay. What else?
That massive rebalance we mentioned, over 350 vehicles, a brand new hangar and UI, the new matchmaker, built from the ground up, they say.
And wasn't there more? Something about PvE.
Yep. A new PvE event called Operation Boiling Point, a new map, Nordscar, a sound upgrade, and Personal Missions 3.0.
Okay, it's a pretty comprehensive list on paper.
Yeah.
Definitely looks like a major investment.
It does. Now, whether all those pieces land well, that's the question.
Let's dig into one of the most visible changes first. That interface overhaul. The UI and the hangar. How does Wargaming describe it?
They're calling it spacious and richly detailed, like a tank factory. They claim it streamlined, functional, and informative.
Specific changes.
Menu moved to the left, crew info put next to equipment trying to group pre-battle stuff together, and an expandable vehicle list, like playlists. Sounds logical, right?
It does sound logical when you list it like that,
Yeah.
but the player reaction.
Well, that's where it gets interesting. The reaction from many veteran players has been, let's just say, strong, and mostly negative.
How negative are you talking?
We're seeing quotes like, "They suck, there is no sugarcoating it," or "over a decade of building muscle memory," all thrown out the window, and for what? Mobile game UI.
Ouch. Mobile game UI. That stinks.
It does, and players are making a key distinction here. It's not just the user interface, how it looks, it's the UX, the user experience, how it actually functions.
Right. So it might look modern, but it's harder to use.
That's the core complaint. Players like Dasboot on Reddit, someone who's played pretty much from the start, they're saying the UX is broken.
What specifically is broken for them?
Things like the tank carousel needing more clicks or scrolls, crew skills aren't visible at a glance anymore, again, more clicks needed.
Little things that add up, I guess.
Exactly. Tank stats are apparently hidden behind a spacebar press now. People are literally asking, where are the damn stats, Wargaming?
Okay, hiding stats seems counterintuitive for a game like this.
Right, and post-battle results show less info up front, needing more clicks for details like crits. People are pointing out wasted space, bloated menus, huge icons, weird placement of game modes.
It sounds like a lot of friction where there wasn't friction before.
Precisely. There's a great comment comparing it to car brands like BMW. They evolve incrementally. You don't suddenly hide the speedometer. This commenter said, "Never disrupt user habits unless absolutely necessary. That's a core UX principle."
So is this Wargaming maybe prioritizing new players over veterans, trying to simplify things perhaps for different platforms down the line, even if it annoys the existing base?
That's the big question, isn't it? When you zoom out, it feels like a massive gamble. You're messing with years of muscle memory.
Which is huge in any game, especially a fast-paced one.
Huge. Normally you'd see extensive testing, maybe opt-in betas for this kind of change. This approach feels abrupt. It suggests they either misjudged how ingrained those habits are, or they're deliberately pivoting.
Pivoting toward...
Maybe a newer audience, yeah. Some people do admit the old UI was clunky, a Frankenstein relic, as one put it. But the risk is this new UI might frustrate new players too if basic game info is hard to find. They might leave because the core game feels inaccessible, not just because the buttons move.
So it could backfire completely. Is it a solution looking for a problem? Or maybe a needed change, just poorly executed?
It's really hard to say definitively yet, but the initial UX feedback is certainly worrying.
Okay, moving from the interface to the battlefield itself. Tier XI tanks, that's another massive change.
Monumental. 16 new Tier XI tanks at launch.
And they have unique features.
Yeah, unique gameplay mechanics and active abilities. Things like a Maoist-type tank with twin guns, an IS-7 type better at ramming, light tank spotting positions for the team.
Active abilities. Okay, that sounds like a big shift. What's the cost for these?
Steep. 325,000 XP and 7.4 million credits per tank. Examples include the Taschenrat, AMX-67 Immutable, Leopard 120, and one from personal missions, the Blackrock.
How are players reacting to Tier XI? Is it excitement? Dread?
It's really polarized, as you'd expect. Some say, yeah, they've been a long time coming, but many others are like, doesn't even feel that interesting, or just straight up call it more power creep.
Power creep is always a concern.
Always. And lots of players are saying, nobody asked for these, calling them fantasy garbage. They wanted real prototypes, like the Leopard 2 Proto or the MBT-70, not tanks with arcade abilities.
So the fantasy aspect is a sticking point, too.
Definitely. And the impact on existing tiers is a huge worry. People fear it's basically a nerf to Tier 10, and that Tier 9X matches just got way shittier. Some are saying the game's becoming Fortnite up with stupid-ass arcade abilities.
Fortnite up.
Yeah.
That paints a picture. What does this shift towards fantasy and arcade mean for the game's identity?
That's the crux of it. It signals a potential change in the core philosophy of World of Tanks, moving away from its semi-historical, more simulation-focused roots towards something faster, maybe flashier, more arcade-like.
Have we seen this before?
We have, actually. In World of Warships, their sister game, they introduced super ships, which are basically Tier XI, and the community reaction there was not positive overall. It generated a lot of pushback.
So wargaming is potentially repeating a controversial strategy.
It looks that way. It might attract some new players who like that style, sure. But it seriously risks alienating the veteran players who loved the game for its historical flavor and strategic depth. How much of the original WOT identity survives this? That's the question veterans are asking.
And speaking of changing core mechanics, let's talk about the armor flashlight.
Ah, yes. The armor penetration indicator.
Wargaming says it's to help players learn, right? How to angle armor, where to aim.
That's the pitch. When you're stationary in sniper mode, aiming at a tank within 300 meters, it highlights the weak spots. Plus, there's an armor viewer in the garage.
It sounds like a learning tool. Helpful, maybe?
You'd think, but the backlash has been immediate and intense. People are calling it a death sentence to the concept of armor.
A death sentence, wow.
Yeah, or a literal cheat mod. The argument is that it completely dumbs down the game.
How so?
Because it removes the need to actually learn weak spots. That's a skill veterans have spent years honing, knowing where to shoot different tanks. Now, the game just tells you.
So it feels like it caters to inexperienced players, maybe.
That's exactly the feeling. Catering to noobs, as they say, while frustrating experienced players, people are worried about things like overmatches, and that heavily armored tanks will just become easy XP piñatas.
This seems like it fundamentally alters the skill ceiling then. Does it make the game more accessible, like wargaming probably hopes?
Or does it just flatten the skill curve? Does it reduce the reward for deep game knowledge map positions, armor layouts, weak points, which has always been part of WOT's strategic depth?
It's a tough balance to strike, making it easier to get into versus keeping the long-term challenge.
It really is. And this design choice, adding the flashlight, it clearly signals a priority. Is it ease of access for a broad audience? Or is it preserving the depth that keeps veterans engaged? Finding that sweet spot is critical for a game like this.
Okay, let's shift gears to the balancing act. Wargaming is calling this the largest World of Tanks vehicle balance update to date. Over 500 vehicles touched.
Yeah, across all tiers. They say they're improving stock configurations, making tanks less painful to grind through, and streamlining modules, less clutter, more gameplay is the phrase.
Are there specific examples?
HP buffs for light tanks, which many felt were needed. They're modernizing some older premium tanks like the WZ-111, the Mutzes, the FCM50T, and permanent price cuts or credit buffs for Tier 8 and IX premiums.
Sounds positive on the surface, but knowing this community, there's skepticism.
Oh, absolutely. Skepticism is high. Many players are looking at the list and saying these are meaningless changes for most of those 500 tanks. They think only a few dozen at best got actual significant rebalances.
And wasn't there something controversial about module compensation?
Yes, that's a huge sticking point. When they remove old modules, the XP compensation goes on to Tier I tanks. To use that XP elsewhere, you need free XP.
Which requires gold, real money, to convert.
Exactly. So players are calling it a scam or a cash grab. It feels like they're losing progress unless they pay up.
That sounds like a recipe for frustration. What about tanks that weren't changed?
That's another major complaint. People are pointing to vehicles widely seen as overperforming the LEF-H artillery piece, the BZ-176 Heavy, the EBR-75 light tank, and saying they were left untouched or barely nerfed.
While underperforming tanks.
Still underperforming, apparently. Older premiums like the T-34 or the CDC are still seen as trash tier by many. And the eternal complaint, artillery SPGs, remain mostly untouched.
So that the rebalance feels incomplete or targeted in the wrong way for many players.
Yeah, and what's really fascinating is the approach. It seems like wargaming is often buffing tech tree tanks to try and match the really strong premium tanks instead of just nerfing the premium.
Which leads
more power creep, according to players. Faster battles, turbo battles, where strategy takes a backseat to just raw damage output. It changes the whole pace and feel of the game.
Okay, linked to balance is the Matchmaker. Matchmaker Reforged, they're calling it. What's the promise there?
They say they've completely rewritten its core. The goals are smarter team composition, balancing roles like TDs, lights, heavies, and tighter class limits.
So then it's like
Max 3 light tanks, Max 5 tank destroyers, Max 3 SPGs per team. Also aiming for closer tiers, so more battles where tanks are only one tier apart, and trying to avoid having lots of the same tank model on both teams.
And they remove some modes to help this.
Yeah, encounter assault and grand battles are gone for now. They say it's to free up resources for the main matchmaker queue.
How's that landing with the players?
It's mixed again. Some players say, yeah, this is long needed, but many others are like, these are basic, obvious changes, should have happened years ago.
So not exactly revolutionary in their eyes.
Not really, and there's a concern that these tighter limits might actually make battles more predictable, more samey, less dynamic, fewer of those weird, funky, fun situations that sometimes happen with odd team lineups.
So the question is, will it genuinely make matches fairer or just more boring, maybe?
That's the trade-off, isn't it? Balancing queue times, fairness, and variety is incredibly hard. It's always a compromise. And whether this new compromise feels better, we'll have to see how it plays out live.
Beyond those huge pillars, UI, Tier X, balance, matchmaker, what else is in 2.0? You mentioned PvE.
Right, Operation Boiling Point. It's a story-driven PvE mode on that new map, Nordscar. There are also new personal missions 3.0 called Sector 3.
Rewards for those?
Some new tanks. Tier 8 Vinhund, Tier X VZ60S Draits, and that Tier X Blackrock we mentioned earlier. These missions are apparently drastically different, focusing on vehicle roles, not just specific nations or tank types.
Player thoughts on these?
Cautiously optimistic about PvE, generally. Well, people often ask for more PvE content. But the personal missions, some see them as just a way to force players to collect all vehicles, basically a big grind gate.
Okay. And the new map, Nordscar.
It's a Scandinavian theme, but the reaction is a bit muted. Only one new map for a massive 2.0 update feels underwhelming to some, especially since it was tested before in their recon mode.
Not exactly brand new then.
Not entirely. They also added random events, dynamic map changes to 4 more existing maps. But again, players see this as sort of expected stuff, maybe even a delayed fix for bad map design, rather than exciting new content.
Anything getting positive feedback?
The sound upgrade, actually. Generally, people seem happy with that. They're saying the tank sounds are heavier, more authentic, recorded from real vehicles. The sound department seems to have done well.
Okay, so some positives. But with any big update labeled 2.0, you have to ask, what's missing? What didn't make it in?
That's a great point. People were perhaps expecting more fundamental tech upgrades. Things like ray tracing support or the enhanced Havoc physics engine that was shown off years ago.
Yeah.
those are absent.
And things were removed too, right? Progression stuff.
Yes, and this is causing real anger. Things like the top of the tree event discounts and the ability to get blueprints from daily missions, they're gone.
Why does that matter so much?
Players feel it makes the grind, especially towards those new tier PA tanks, significantly harder and more expensive. They see it as a scummy move, taking away progression aids right when a huge new grind is introduced.
So taking all this together, the World of Tanks 2.0 label itself, is it justified?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Wargaming themselves have previously said a true sequel, a WOT 2, doesn't make sense for a live service game.
Right. So calling this update 2.0,
Is it genuinely transformative? Does it represent that level of change? Or is it more like a collection of updates, some long overdue, some new, some controversial, bundled together under a big marketing banner after a year that felt a bit slow on content and had some monetization issues?
it really highlights the tension between developer marketing and how the long-term players perceive actual value and real innovation.
Exactly. Is the 2.0 tag earned, or is it just hype?
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah.
We've looked at the ambitious claims for World of Tanks 2.0, the new tanks, the UI, the rebalance, the matchmaker.
And we've dived into the community's reaction. The excitement, yes, but also a lot of frustration, skepticism, and concern about core changes and things left unaddressed.
What this deep dive really seems to show is a game caught in a tough spot. It's trying to modernize, maybe attract new players.
While also managing the expectations of a massive, very dedicated, and often very critical veteran player base. It's a classic balancing act for any long-running game. How much can you change before it stops feeling like the game people fell in love with?
World of Tanks 2.0 promises this new era. But the big question hanging over it all is whether this new era preserves the strategic depth and unique identity that made the game popular, or if it's a shift towards something fundamentally different, perhaps simpler.
Will it bring back players who left? Or will these changes, particularly the UI and the gameplay shifts like Tier X and the armor indicator, be the final straw for some longtime veterans?
It feels like the answer really depends on which part of the community you ask. Only time on the battlefield after these changes go live will truly tell.